Hi, you guys. I'm still admitting. What are you doing?
Hey, hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Everything is okay. How are you?
Okay, very good. Relieved. No more peer evaluators. I'm relieved.
That's good.
Okay. Yeah, we had a very good reading. That was good. Okay, one more minute to admit people and then I'm going to start. I'm already recording. So let's do it. Today we're going to see the letter of credit. I hope you have all seen the results of your tests. However, I put it on the system, but I didn't put it on Excel so I could show it to you. So I promise I will show you all the points next class. Because I thought I had done it, but I didn't. Okay, here we go. This is the core of the topic of this semester, the letter of credit. So what is a letter of credit? So it's an international financial instrument. It's a banking instrument that assures, right, the importer that he or she is going to receive his or her merchandise, and obviously ensures the exporter or the broker or an agent that we are going to see that we are going to be dealing not always with an exporter, we're going to be dealing also with a broker, but we're going to see it in time. Assures them the money for the merchandise they're selling. Okay. So before I go that, I gotta see this first. There are different ways to pay an import. We have the open account. Open account is for that type of people who have a trend of working together for a long period of time. So they have an open account. They want the merchandise, they request the merchandise is sent and may be paid later. That is to have an open account. However, you cannot count on having an import and pay it later if you don't know the other party. So this is for only for companies or people who already know each other for a long period of time. And then we have the advance payment. The advance payment is the one that we always use when we buy from abroad, from AliExpress, from Wish, from any other place, Amazon. We always pay in advance. We use our credit cards and we pay for the merchandise, and then in a couple of days, sometimes weeks or months, we receive the merchandise. That is advance payment. So we're not going to use that. You have to know they exist, but we're not going to see them. And then we have document against payment, that is also known as COD. Okay, so charge on delivery, that's what it means. That means that you receive the merchandise, but in order for you to get the merchandise, you gotta pay it immediately. Otherwise, the merchandise is going to be seized. That is another way that also exists. It depends on the deal. And we are going to be focusing on the letter of credit, as I said before. And the letter of credit is an international banking instrument, right, that assures both parties to get what they're aiming, money or merchandise, and or merchandise. So when we talk about the process of the letter of credit, we're going to have the two parties involved. Those are the most important ones because they have to make a deal. And when we talk about a deal, we talk about several days of conversation and negotiating. So you are never going to achieve a deal in one setting. It's always conversations going back and forth. And today, most of the negotiations are online. So People buy online the same way we're communicating now. People negotiate like this. And I think it's going to become a trend from now on. So we have the importer, the person requesting the merchandise, and we have the exporter. In this deal, they have to discuss absolutely everything, okay? The type of merchandise, the quantity of the merchandise, how the merchandise is going to be transported, how the merchandise is going to be packaged, everything, how it's going to be paid, all the conditions that are involved in the process of this transaction. And then we have the operation. This you are already familiar with. Once these two people agree on the transaction, then the importer goes to the opening bank. If you notice, when we talk about regular money remittance, we talk about the issuing bank. When we're talking about the letter of credit, we're talking about the opening bank, because this is the bank that is going to open a letter of credit in favor of the exporter. However, let's not lose the perspective that the client of this bank is the importer. He is requesting the money so he can pay this person. But how is the process? He requests the money here to his, usually, not always, but usually to his personal bank. So his personal bank already knows the financial status of this person. Then next class, we're going to see the process in detail, but today I want you to get the overall. So when the bank approves the money or the credit, I get distracted with this. When the bank approves the credit, whether it is a wire or a draft, you know the process. It goes the same. The money is already approved, so the money is already available, whether it is in the vault or in the Vostro, it's already available. And all the instructions related to the deal and the conditions that both parties discussed are going to be transmitted through the SWIFT to the correspondent bank. So this person here already knows what this transaction is about. The exporter or the broker, we're going to see that later, when the exporter goes to the bank, right, he goes or she goes with all the shipping documents proving that the merchandise is already on its way. Otherwise, the teller of this bank will not pay unless this person shows the evidence that the merchandise is already being exported. Okay, so that is more or less the process. As I told you before, we are going to see the detail of the process next class. But today we're going to see all the conditions. So in order for us to discuss it next class, we need to know what is coming. These are different clauses of the letter of credit. There are 15 clauses. However, not all of them are for imports and exports. Come on, let me work. Not all of them are for imports and exports. So we're going to see each one of them. This number doesn't mean that you're going to have all these different letters of credit. All these are different conditions to maybe a single document. A document may have all these conditions or several conditions. So we're going to see it. Let's start with the first one, irrevocable letter of credit. It is always recommended for an exporter to request an irrevocable letter of credit because, as I told you before, I'm going to show you, the importer is the customer of this bank, and he may request to the teller to make it otherwise revocable. And revocable means that he may make changes to the document. And you as an exporter, you always want irrevocable because you may be sending the merchandise and the importer may decide to cancel the letter of credit Therefore, your merchandise is going to be on the way and you're not going to get the money because the importer canceled the letter of credit. So what you always want is irrevocable. Under this condition, that means that the importer cannot make any changes. The only way the letter of credit can be changed, the terms of the letter of credit can be changed, is if both parties agree to the changes, right? So bear that in mind. Obviously, we have the revocable. It exists, but it's risky. So usually people who are not very experienced and not very familiar with the process may accept a revocable letter of credit. A letter of credit is always one or the other. It's never without. It's always revocable or it's always irrevocable. So that depends on the deal. So that's why the deal between the two parties is always important. So remember, revocable means that the letter of credit can be changed, can be canceled by the importer. Remember, he is the one requesting the money to pay the import. And then we have transferable. So we have transferable and untransferable. It's always going to be one or the other. So far we have an irrevocable, transferable, or untransferable letter of credit. What makes it transferable? It means that the exporter may decide to transfer part of the benefit, part of the payment to somebody else. Let's say a supplier. Let's say that he owes money to a supplier, and he may request the importer to make the letter of credit, let's say 80% to his own benefit, right, as a beneficiary, and then another percentage to somebody else. Therefore, he is transferring part of the benefit to the other person. And the bank needs to know this because the bank then is going to produce two drafts. One, for example, for the 80% of the beneficiary, for the exporter, and the 20% for a supplier, to the name of that supplier. This is also discussed in the deal, because if you change your mind later and you say, oh, I forgot to tell you, and you talk to the importer and you say, I forgot to tell you, I want to transfer 20%, 15% to somebody else, you can't, unless you make a radical change to the letter of credit. And that is not appropriate because it delays payments. So it's part of the deal. Untransferable is the most common. That means that the exporter is going to receive 100% of the payment. Okay, so no portion is going to be transferred. Usually the transfers of money is up to 20% or 25%, no more than that. And then we have the site. What is site? It means that when the exporter goes to the correspondent bank showing all the shipping documents that the merchandise is on its way, the bank is going to pay against a document. That is site. Is what we see in Spanish as a la vista. So it's show me the documents, I'll give you the money. That is the process. But we also have time letter of credit. And time letter of credit is usually used as a request of the importer because the importer may need time to work the merchandise and get the money or make the money to pay for the import. In that case, he requests the exporter for 30 days, 60, 90, or 120 days, depending on the deal, to pay the export. So that means that the exporter is going to present the documents and the money is going to be waiting to be paid, right, in that period of time. So he can pay to the bank at a later time. That is time letter of credit. And then we have the revolving letter of credit. Revolving means that when you deal for multiple shipments at the same time. So the deal, let's say that you're importing mangoes and you say, I want 3 shipments of mangoes. So those are identical shipments. 3 containers, let's suppose. 1 container this month, the other container in 2 months, the other container in 4 months. So you got 3 identical shipments. That means that the letter of credit approves the money for the 3 shipments. However, it doesn't make the payment for all 3. It pays per shipment. Okay, we're going to see this one in detail also. And then we have the back-to-back letter of credit. The back-to-back means that you open one letter of credit for an import. And let's say that you're importing toys. And you're importing a container of toys. And then you sell your toys here. And you consider that it was a good deal and you made good money on it. So you want to you want to import again, but maybe more or maybe less. It's always going to vary, but it's going to be another deal after the initial one. So that means that the exporter is going to be the same person, but you may vary in the quantity of the merchandise, the quality, or the type of merchandise. But it's going to be a second buy from the same exporter. So the bank already knows all in relation to the financial status of you as an importer and the transaction that was already done with that former exporter. So they don't need to go all over again with the application and all. They just open a second letter of credit. Okay? And that's why it's called one after the other, a back-to-back letter of credit. And we have the green clause letter of credit. The green clause was created in order for farmers, for people selling produce. Produce is not product. Produce is related to flowers, fruit, and vegetables, and lumber. So they were waiting for the harvest. So the merchandise was already promised. So the bank gave an advance of money for the farmers until they harvested the produce, the fruit or whatever they were selling that was greens, right? And they could package that and then they would pay the rest of the merchandise. That happened for that. But today, green clause is used for everything. So the exporter, let's suppose that you're exporting to Japan. Japan always requests very, very fancy and unique type of packaging. That is not the typical packaging everybody uses. So you need additional money for that particular package. When that happens, you request an additional money, an advance of money, so you can have the packaging they request. I'm giving you as an example, maybe other reasons. So you may request up to 20% of the advance of money, 5%, 10%, 15%, before you ship the merchandise. So you can count up that money beforehand. And then when you present all the documents, you get the rest of the money. That's another option of the letter of credit. And then we have the red clause letter of credit. In here, and this is where I would love to work with you with some small entrepreneurs, because maybe we can work on this particular letter of credit. I'm trying to find small entrepreneurs. I already have some, and see if we can do something from here until the end of December. What happens with this? I'm going to give you an example. Let's suppose that you want to work right now. You know the process of imports and exports. And you find a small entrepreneur that doesn't know how to do this process. So you know what he's selling. Let's suppose this entrepreneur is selling honey. assuming. And you find a market, people who want to buy honey in other places, in other countries. So you offer the honey to these people, right? And you make the entire process, whether it is for import or it is for export. And you get 5% on this. You're not the exporter or you're not the importer. You're the intermediate person that is doing the process for these people, whether it's an importer or an exporter, or buyer or a seller in this case. So you're going to get 5%. That's what they usually charge, 5% of the transaction. So imagine if you sell a container, half a container, you're getting good money. You're not a producer, right? You're not a grower. You're just receiving a percentage, a commission for the work you did. Since we're seeing it for a letter of credit, it is usually the importer who requests somebody. Let's assume that you want to buy magnetic imaging machines and you don't know anybody in the country, in Germany, for example. So you look for a broker and they look for the merchandise you want. They get the merchandise and the letter of credit is open to that broker. So it works with documents. So the broker, at the end of the day, he's only going to see the 5% of his commission because the bank, the correspondent bank, is going to give him directly the documents to pay the sellers. Okay, we're going to see it in detail, but it's very interesting and it's a very nice way to make your own business without having an employer. You can sell things for many people in different types of products, always working for a commission. And let's not get confused. A broker or a commission agent, they work for a commission for that 5%. They are not the custom agent and they are not the freight forwarders. They work with them. You may work with a freight forwarder, you may work with a custom agent, but you're doing the entire process. Okay. Okay, what's an advice letter of credit? An advice letter of credit is here when the exporter wants his personal bank to inform him or her that the letter of credit has been opened in his or her favor. But remember that every bank charges a fee. So if the personal bank is going to be part of the picture, the importer has to know this because he informs the opening bank and the opening bank has to consider the 100% of the cost of this transaction. So the fee has to be included. And this is one of the figures on an advice letter of credit, informing the exporter that the letter of credit is open. It's just information. The other one is a confirmed letter of credit, where the personal bank of the exporter is informing and is paying. So the direct communication between the exporter and the correspondent bank of the opening bank is not there. It's going to be opening bank, correspondent bank, personal bank, confirming bank that informs the exporter. Additional money, additional fees. So it is also part of the deal. Some exporters, they request to be paid or informed by their personal banks. The exporter's letter of credit. The exporter letters of credit was created in 2008 when there was a very big mistrust of banks. So the Americans and the Canadian exporters, they requested all the importers worldwide to open letters of credit in Canadian or in American banks. Okay, but this is not only used for American or Canadian banks anymore. So a Chilean today may also request an importer to open a letter of credit in a Chilean bank or in a bank he indicates. Okay, so that makes it a letter of credit, an exporter's letter of credit. So it's the exporter who requests in which bank the letter of credit should be opened. So this was in the past. Today is for everybody. Here we're going to see some of the letters of credit that are not used for imports. The standby letter of credit was used initially for imports, but this means that the money was approved by bank and it was waiting there to be used to pay for the imports. However, many people misused and committed fraud with this money. So that's why they decided, bank industry decided to use the standby letter of credit only for investments, just to assure the completion of an investment. That's the only use today. It's not used for imports anymore. And we have the traveler's letters of credit. This is the type of letter of credit used by politicians or very, very big business people, very wealthy people, presidents and all that. They have their money available wherever they go. So they don't carry cash. They have money available. If let's say that you become a CEO and you decide to go to France, and all you have to do is go to any bank or simply make transactions and have money available to you. Or if you decide to go to Las Vegas, money is available to you. So this is not used for imports. It's only used for very rich people that have their money available. And those are all the types of letters of credit. You are going to be getting familiar because we're going to be practicing all these letters of credit process by process, and then you will memorize them as everybody else does. So it seems like a lot, but in one particular transaction, you may have a letter of credit. Let's suppose that you want an advance, you want to be paid through your bank, and you want to pay in 3 months. Right? So you're going to have an irrevocable, untransferable, green clause time letter of credit. Confirmed letter of credit is one document. It means that you have all those conditions in that particular transaction. It doesn't mean that you're going to open a letter of credit to be transferable, another letter of credit to be red clause, and so on. These are all the conditions in one particular document. Was that understood?
Yes, Miss.
Great. Was anybody lost? No? Nobody's lost? Great. So I'm going to advance a little bit and I'm going to give you homework. I'm going to
Miss,
share.
I get
Yes.
lost in the one that was with the Canadian bank.
The exporters.
Yes.
Okay.
Now it's for any bank that I want.
Sure, because in the beginning of it, similar like the green clause, it started for one particular type of business, but then it changed and it spread to everybody. Here it is. Okay, so now the exporters, as I said in the example, a Chilean may request an importer to open a letter of credit in a Chilean bank. Can you see this? Can you see what I'm showing?
No.
Nope.
No? Okay, start. Try again.
It's loading. Okay.
Let's see, I want to see process. I want to show you the same. I think it's here. Can you see this one?
The deal?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, can you see this? Yeah, okay. So this is I'm going to show you the basic process, and then I'm going to give you the exercise so maybe you can come up with the answer. As I told you before, is the deal, everything related about the transaction. Once they agree on every single aspect, that's why it's not only one setting. You have conversation after conversation. Sometimes the exporters, they request samples of the merchandise, so you have to send them so they can see them, touch them, and so on. After all that, when the deal is already talked and discussed, the exporter or the broker, the exporter produces a pro forma invoice. A pro forma invoice is simply the order of purchase. This invoice does not pay taxes. Remember that invoices, you have to declare taxes, but this is the pro forma. It goes before the actual invoice. This document is very important, whether it goes on paper physically to the importer, or it may go online. Okay, but this document carries all the information of the deal, all the conditions. If it's not there, the bank does not recognize it. So it's very important, changing, because when the importer receives the pro forma invoice, whether it's physical or online, then he has to go with that document to the opening bank, which is usually his personal bank, to request the credit, to request the money. So the bank takes this information, takes this document, and gives to the importer a letter of credit application, which is a document. When you go to a bank to request for credit, they give you a form, right? An application to request the credit. In that application, the importer has to reveal all his financial status. So the opening bank, even if it is his personal bank, the opening bank is going to study, excuse me, is going to study the financial status of this person. They have to know that he is going to be able to return the money. Okay, so after he fills in all that information, the opening bank studies this, so the credit is never approved the same day. The opening bank will check the information here, check the information of the application he had to fill in, will communicate with the exporter to see if the information he's giving is actual, it's real, right? And then they approve. When the opening bank approves the letter of credit, that letter of credit application, that format, becomes an official letter of credit. How? The bank assigns to that particular document an ID number and gives it a name. And what is the name? All the conditions of the letter of credit. Example, irrevocable, untransferable, site, green clause, confirmed. All the conditions we saw before, if they apply, depending on each situation. After the bank makes that letter of credit official, then proceeds to give him the code or the draft. That process you already know, and communicates the SWIFT to this teller. So when the exporter receives the notification from the bank, because the bank will have to notify the exporter that the letter of credit is open in her favor, right? So she has two evidences. She has either the code or the draft and the notification from the correspondent bank that the letter of credit is open in her favor. So then she starts preparing the merchandise. And here we go. She ships the merchandise, collects all the documents she had to collect in order to ship the merchandise and presents it to the teller. The teller will have to verify these documents according to the SWIFT she received, and then she pays. From where? Depending on where she put the money, so she can pay the exporter. That is a sight letter of credit, because she's giving the document and she's going to pay her immediately. Okay, so then what does she do with the document? She ships the document. She has to physically or online, because many of the documents now, depending on the countries, not all the countries are the same, but depending on the countries, everything is done online. So they communicate that everything is in order to this teller. When she receives these instructions or the physical documents, then she contacts the importer. So the importer has to come to the bank, pay the money back, and get the documents. Why does the bank need the documents? Remember that the opening bank is giving the money. So the merchandise, the container that is coming here, belongs to the bank, not to the importer, until the importer pays the money back. So when the opening bank receives the documents, and if the importer doesn't have the money to return the money back, the opening bank takes the merchandise. They seize the merchandise because they have the documents to clear the merchandise for import. But the bank don't want that. They want the money. Okay, that is the process. So this is the activity. You're going to import 2 identical shipments of shoes from Brazil. The exporter requests an advance of 10% for the first shipment. If you see this statement of exercise, what type of letter of credit is this? Anyone? What do you think? What do you remember? Nobody remembers anything? Oh my guys. Okay, we're going to develop
Miss,
this. Yes, honey?
maybe green clothes?
That's it? That's all?
I
That
don't
would be
know.
one of the conditions, right? Because we have an advance of 10%. That would be one of the conditions. What else? What else do you see here?
That one with the different shipments. I don't remember the name.
We have 2 identical shipments, right? So that makes it revolving. So this letter of credit has, if it doesn't say when it's going to be paid, you always think it's sight. Okay, so we always finish the name of the letter of credit with sight. So we say it's irrevocable, untransferable, revolving, green clause, sight. Okay, that is the type of letter of credit that you're going to be working with. So try to make PowerPoints or something that you can explain, because remember that next test is similar to the first. You are going to explain the process. I'm going to give you the statement of the exercise, and you're going to explain the entire process. So get used to preparing your own PPT or give a discussion on how this process is done. I know you have the basics, and we are going to be doing several exercises on this until you become familiar with the process, and then you recite it. It's like always the same, always the same. You just go changing a few things. Okay? I'm going to upload this to the virtual room and try to do this by Friday so we can check it together. Got it?
Miss, can you say it again? Which one was the letter?
What was the letter of credit?
All
Check.
of them.
So I said it is irrevocable, untransferable, revolving, green clause, and site. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Ready, guys. I'll see you.
Miss,
Yeah.
hello. Can I speak with you in right now in the with my
Can I,
partners?
can I what?
We can speak. We can speak right now with my partner Sebastian Rivera.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sure, definitely. I'm going to stop
Thank you,
sharing.
Miss.
You're welcome. Ready, guys. I'll see you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Miss.
Bye, Miss.
Bye, honey. Take care.
Profe, una consulta antes de
Sure, in English, no problem.
¿Cuándo podría hablar con usted?
When
Necesito
can
hablar
we
sobre-
talk? Do you want to talk now? Do you want to talk now? Or later? I don't know, whenever.
But before that, Nicolás.
Before Nicolas, right now. Okay, I'm here. Before or after? Whichever.
Well, we are ready. Sebastian, are you there?
I'm ready.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Miss. Well, I want to talk to you because for the last test, I know that my test,
Performance.
yes, my performance. Thank you, Miss. My performance was very, very bad, and I am so nervous. And I have a question for you, Miss. There are a chance you will give us another chance to do the test. No, impossible.
No, because you actually
Yes.
had a reasonable grade because you didn't get it below 4. And you didn't get it below 4 because of the answer of Sebastian. And that is one of the advantages of working together. Because if you had been alone, you wouldn't have gotten
Perfect.
a 4. Yeah, for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload because those tests were recorded. So I want you to look at yourself so you don't do the same mistake next time. And remember, the next time is going to be a similar type of test. So you got to be more relaxed and a better prepared,
Miss.
of course.
Okay, Miss. I got it. I understand you.
So thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you.
Say thank you, Sebastian.
Okay.
All right.
Bye,
Okay.
Miss. Thank you.
Bye, babe. Take care.
Thank you, Miss.
You're welcome, honey. Okay, so Alejandro, what's up?
Profe, lo que pasa es que era más sobre el
English.
tema
Try
de
to
la
use your English.
que me pongo nervioso, profe, entonces me trago y no puedo explicarlo bien.
Come on. You need to practice with me.
Es que, ¿quién ve seminario?
What do you mean?
Que la duda que tengo es que si el próximo año, para dar seminario, se supone que uno tiene que tener todos los ramos que están con el 500.
Sí, pero eso depende. Eso depende si estás en condición de egresos. Suponte que tienes un ramo pendiente, vas a rendir todos los del 520 y algo, porque el seminario se repite todos los semestres. Si tú estás en esa condición, puedes dar la asignatura que tengas de prerequisito pendiente. ¿Me explico? Entonces, porque estarías en condición de egreso ese semestre. ¿Qué se considera condición de egreso? Que terminas en ese semestre, no que terminas en ese año. Porque el programa es semestral, no es anual. ¿Entiendes? Entonces, si vas a, suponte tú, a ver, alguno de los prerequisitos, el 413 de el lectivo, por ejemplo. Si tienes ese pendiente, estás tomando todos tus ramos, pero tienes un pendiente que es un prerequisito que debería tenerlo listo para tomar uno de los 500. Es posible, si se están dictando todos, puedes dar ambos ramos en paralelo. Se permite, pero la condición es que estés en condición de egreso ese semestre.
Profe, antes que todo, está grabando.
Ah, sí, parece. Pero igual le sirve a todos.